A few weeks ago, my AI told me something that genuinely stopped me in my tracks. I was in the middle of a strategy session with Claude, which is the AI I use for basically everything in my business now, and I was pushing hard on timelines, trying to figure out how to fit more into my already jam-packed schedule, how to launch faster, how to get to my revenue goals sooner. And Claude said something along the lines of, "This level of urgency is not going to get you to your goals. It's going to burn you out before you even get there." And I sat there staring at my screen because I knew it was true. Not because AI is smarter than me, but because sometimes you need something outside of your head to reflect back the pattern you can't see you're inside of. And the pattern was this. I had been treating my side business like a sprint for almost 4 years, and I was exhausted. And the exhaustion was making me less effective, not more. So today I want to talk about why I'm deliberately slowing down this summer, why I think you should too, and why rest is not the opposite of progress. It actually is the strategy. Hi, I'm Jenny. Welcome to The Bold Biz. I help women over 40 build online side businesses without the hustle, without the burnout, and without trying to be 25 again. And if that's you, please hit subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. So here's the thing about building a side business in midlife. There's this clock ticking in the background that young entrepreneurs don't have. And the clock says things like, "You're already 52. You should have started this 10 years ago. You don't have time to take it slow. Every month you're not earning from this is a month wasted." And that clock creates urgency. And urgency feels productive. It feels like drive and ambition and taking things seriously. But here's what I've learned after almost 4 years of building side businesses alongside a full-time job and raising twins on a small island in Sweden. Urgency is not the same thing as momentum. And most of the time, urgency is actually the thing that kills momentum. Because urgency makes you rush decisions. It makes you skip the thinking step and jump straight to the doing step. It makes you say yes to things you should say no to because they feel like progress even when they're not. It makes you start 7 things and finish none of them. And worst of all, it makes you feel guilty every single time you stop, even when stopping is exactly what you need. And if that sounds familiar, I want you to know that I have lived inside this pattern for years, and I'm not describing it from the outside. I am describing it from deep, deep within it. Let me give you the honest version of what urgency looked like in my business journey, because I think it helps to hear the real thing rather than the cleaned up version. I started my first side business almost 4 years ago, and from day one, I was in a rush. I wanted results quickly because I felt like I was already late, like everyone else had figured this out years ago, and I was playing catch up. So I tried a print-on-demand jewelry business, and when that didn't take off fast enough, I moved on. I tried Amazon KDP, and when that didn't feel right, I moved on again. I tried a yarn accessories brand. I tried a Swedish personal finance brand that I launched this past January and paused 5 months later. And each time I moved on, the urgency told me I was being smart. I was pivoting. I was iterating. I was learning fast. But looking back, honestly, what I was actually doing was running. I was running from the discomfort of staying with something long enough for it to work. Because staying felt slow, and slow felt dangerous when the clock was ticking. And here's the part that's hard to admit. The urgency didn't get me to my goals faster. It got me to the same starting line over and over again. Because every time I abandoned something and started fresh, I was back at 0. New brand, new audience, new everything. And all the work I'd put into the last thing just evaporated. So back to that conversation with Claude that stopped me in my tracks. I was mapping out my summer, trying to figure out how to fit more into it. More content, more products, more platforms, more output. And I was framing it as ambition, as being serious about my goals, as making the most of my vacation month. And Claude basically said, the version of you that reaches your goals is not the version that works harder this summer. It's the version that rests properly so she can show up with full energy in September when it actually matters. And I want to explain why that hit me so hard, because it wasn't just a nice thing to hear. It was a mirror being held up to a pattern I'd been running for years without seeing it clearly. The pattern was push hard, get tired, make worse decisions because I'm tired, feel frustrated by the results, push harder to compensate, get more tired, rinse and repeat for 4 years. And Claude, because it has no ego and no agenda, just calmly pointed out that the cycle was visible in my own words. I was literally describing burnout and calling it ambition. And I couldn't unsee it once it was named. So here's what I want you to hear, especially if you're a woman in midlife building something alongside a job and a family and all the other things we carry. Rest is not the absence of progress. Rest is what makes progress possible. And I know that sounds like a poster you see in a yoga studio, but I mean it in a very practical, strategic way. Because when you're rested, you make better decisions. You can tell the difference between a good opportunity and a shiny distraction. You can sit with discomfort instead of reacting to it. You can think clearly about what actually matters instead of just doing whatever feels most urgent. And when you're exhausted, you can't do any of those things. When you're exhausted, you grab at anything that looks like progress because you're too tired to evaluate whether it actually is. I genuinely believe that the biggest competitive advantage a midlife woman can have in business is not working more hours. It's being rested enough to use her hours well. Because we don't have unlimited hours. We have pockets of time around jobs and families and real life, and those pockets are precious. And wasting them on urgency-driven busy work is the most expensive mistake we can make. So practically, what does this look like for me this summer? Because I want to be specific so it doesn't just sound like I'm telling you to take a bubble bath and call it a business strategy. I'm taking July off from my full-time job, and instead of using that month to grind on my side business, which honestly is what Urgency Jenny would have done, I'm using it to rest, spend time with my twins, and let my brain recover from a very busy year. I'm not launching any new products this month. I'm not adding any new platforms. I'm not starting any new projects. I batch recorded the YouTube videos you're watching this coming month, including this one, so that the channel stays consistent without me having to be on all the time. That's working smarter and not harder. My podcast is on a planned summer break. Season 1 ended at episode 30, and season 2 picks up in mid-August. And Quietly Digital, which is the faceless AI services business I'm building alongside the Bold Biz, is on pause until I come back with fresh eyes and full energy in early August. And here's the thing that surprised me most about making this decision. I don't feel guilty. For the first time in 4 years, I'm choosing to slow down, and I don't feel like I'm falling behind. I feel like I'm finally being honest with myself about what sustainable actually looks like. So if you're watching this and you're in that urgency spiral yourself, I want to give you something that nobody gave me for almost 4 years. Permission to slow down. Not forever, not as an excuse to stop building, but as a genuine strategic choice that protects your energy for the moments that matter. Because here's the truth. The women who are still building in 5 years are not the ones who sprinted the hardest in year 1. They're the ones who found a pace they could sustain. And sustainable looks different for every woman depending on her job, her family, her health, and her energy. Your pace doesn't have to look like anyone else's pace. It just has to be yours. And it has to be honest. And if an AI tool can see that you're burning out before you can see it yourself, that's not embarrassing. That is useful. Use whatever mirror helps you see clearly. A coach, a friend, a journal, an AI, whatever works. The point is not who holds the mirror. The point is being brave enough to actually look. And if you're in that place right now where you've got a business idea, but the urgency is making everything feel overwhelming, I've put together a free guide called The Quiet List. It's the 7 thoughts running quietly in the background of every second chapter woman's mind, with gentle reframes that help you see clearly instead of just react. The link is the first thing in the description below. It's totally free. Just pop in your email and it'll land in your inbox in a few minutes. So that's my honest take on slowing down. It took me almost 4 years and a very calm AI to figure this out, and I'm sharing it with you so it doesn't take you as long. Rest is not the opposite of ambition. Rest is what ambition looks like when it grows up. If this resonated with you, hit subscribe and ring the bell. New episodes every Thursday for second chapter women who are ready to build something real without burning out. Until next time, stay bold, ladies.